Magandang araw! April Marcas po, ang inyong pretty ate sa Edtech Unit. Alam ba ninyo na may webinar o online training session ng Edtech Unit tuwing Sabado? Ang araw na ito ay nakalaan para sa ating mga mahal na kaguruan upang turuan sila ng mga bagong kaalaman at kakayahan sa paggamit ng makabagong software at applications para sa pinaka-epektibong paraan at lubos mapaghusay ang kanilang paraan ng pagtuturo. This is also our refresher session for our beloved teachers to enhance their skills in technology. Every Saturday, we will conduct webinar sessions for teachers about the use, advantages, and relevance of different blended learning software applications. Ang webinar seryeng ito ay magsisimula ng alas 9 ng umaga hanggang alas 12 ng tanghali para sa morning session. Magsisimula naman ng alauna at magtatapos ng alas 4 ng hapon ang afternoon session. You can watch us in our DepEd Educational Unit Facebook page, Educational Technology Unit YouTube channel, DepEd Tayo, and DepEd Philippines. Kita-kits tayo tuwing Sabado!
Magandang araw! Sir Wilbur po, at your service. Narito ang ETUlay upang gabayan ka sa inyong pag-aaral upang lubos na maunawaan ang iba't ibang paksa o subject. Ang ETUlay ay isang free online tutorial class na pinangungunahan ng ICT's Educational Technology Unit sa pamumuno ni Undersecretary Elaine Del P. Pascua. Ang programang ito ay hindi lamang para sa mga bata, kundi ito rin ay magsisilbing gabay sa mga magulang at mga guro kung paano nila ituturo o gagabayan sa bawat asignatura ang kanilang mga anak o mga estudyante. Sa kasalukuyan, ang self-learning module mula sa rehiyon ng Calabarzon at kilala sa tawag na pivot ang ginagamit sa ating ETUlay online class. Kaya ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Ihanda na ang inyong mga ballpen o lapis, papel o kwaderno at samahan kaming itulay ang pagkatuto para sa bawat batang Pilipino. Sama-sama tayong magtutulungan para malampasan ang mga hamon sa panahong ito. Halina't matuto kasama ang inyong online tutor sa oras na ito.
Ayan, so magandang umaga, good morning everyone, and good morning sa aking mga TLE 9 na mga students dito sa Davao City. I hope you could hear me clearly. So simulan na natin ang ating ETUlay para sa umagang ito. Ang ating pong pag-uusapan para sa araw na ito ay still same as the other Friday, last Friday, which is Electronics, Product Assembly and Servicing, NC2, para po sa Quarter 3, Module 1. Okay? Ang ating module po ay para po sa Week 1 and 2. Sana po ay makikinig po kayo, mga estudyante, mga kapatid ko, na kahit saan man kayo sa lupalop ng Pilipinas. At simulan na natin ang ating online session para sa araw na ito. Magsisimula tayo sa review. Ang topic natin is materials, tools, and equipment per task requirements. Ito yung ating reviewin natin kasi ito po yung topic natin last April 9. Basahin mabuti ang mga tanong at ang inyong mga sagot ay ilalagay nyo dyan, i-comment nyo dyan sa comment box. Simulan na natin. So number 1 question. Review tayo ha. What tool is used to heat the wires and melt the soldering lead to create an electrical connection? A. Soldering iron. B. Helping hand. Magle-laser pointer tayo. Ito C. Desoldering pump. Or D. Soldering tool stand. Mga siguro 3 to 5 seconds. Ang sagot natin ay A, soldering iron. Number 2, it is used to remove the unwanted and excess lead in the circuit. So, A, soldering iron, B, helping hand, C, desoldering pump, or D, soldering tool stand. Remove the unwanted and excess lead. Ano kaya ito? 5 seconds. Tingnan natin. Titingnan ko dito ha. Sige. Yan, tama. Okay? Letter C po ang ating sagot, desoldering pump. Okay. Huwag kalimutan, lagay lang po natin sa comment box ang ating mga sagot. Punta tayo sa number 3. So what material is melted to enjoin two metals to create electrical connection? A, soldering wick. B, soldering iron. C, soldering lead. Or D, desoldering pump. 5 seconds. So, titingin-tingin ako dito sa baba kung may mga sagot ba. Ayun. Ang sagot natin is letter B, soldering iron. Ayan. So, mahusay. Punta naman tayo sa number 4. Number 4, o review pa lang tayo ha. Oh, ang galing-galing. Number 4, which electrical conductor is composed of small wires bundled together? So ito ang ating mga choices. Is it A, cable? Is it B, stranded wire? C, coaxial cable? Or D, single-stranded wire? Yan. Ang sagot natin is letter B, stranded wire. So, stranded siya para mga buhok. Let's go to number 5. Last number in our review. To ensure safety in soldering, where should you place the hot iron? Saan ba dapat siya ilagay? A, sa table. B, anywhere. C, plastic container. Or D, soldering tool stand. Saan ba dapat siya ilalagay? 5 seconds. At ang sagot natin is letter D, soldering tool stand. Mahusay! Good job! Now, let's go to our main topic for today. So, let us study how to solder in printed circuit board. So, as of the moment, ang gagawin natin, pag-aaralan muna natin ang mga theory bago tayo pupunta sa actual. So, simulan natin. So, when we are going to solder, my dear students or grade 9 students, ang gagawin natin is, pinaka-importante, we prepare the tools and materials needed. Kahit mag-baking tayo, kahit magta-travel ka, pupunta ng eskwelahan, trabaho, ano ba, di ba lahat, before you embark a certain activity, you prepare the tools and materials needed, or you prepare your things. Hindi tayo pwede pumunta sa school pag incomplete. Di ba? Yung walang ballpen, walang papel. So, dapat prepared tayo. So, same sa electronics, before tayo mag-soldering o mag-solda, okay, prepare the tools and materials. So, kailangan din, nandiyan na yung mga gamit, kompleto na. And also, don't forget, we don't want to inhale the smoke coming from the soldering lead. So, kailangan din tayo mag-face mask. Now, let's go to number 2. Okay? Paano ba hawakan si soldering iron? This part here is metal. So, when you plug in the soldering iron, mainit, it's hot. So, kailangan ang hahawakan mo, ito yung insulated na part. Okay? Yung may rubber. Para safety is our responsibility. So, hold the soldering iron like a pen near the base of the handle. So, dito. Let's go to number 3. Kasi nakaprepare ka ng materials mo, nahawakan mo sa soldering iron, nasaksak mo na siya, no? You just plug it in the outlet. You touch the iron tip onto the joint to be made. So, ang tip, dapat mainit siya at ilalagay mo doon sa kung saan ka magsasolder, kung saan ka magsasolda, ganon. Okay? Para mainit at madali lang mag-melt ang ating soldering lead. So, kung papainitin mo itong joint. Okay? Ito yung joint o yung parang may butas dito sa PCB, dito ilalagay. So, iinitin natin siya dyan apart. Let's go to number 4. And then, when everything is prepared, that joint is hot already, we're going to hold the soldering lead using your hand and 2 inches away from the tip. So, hindi siya kailangan madikit sa tip. Kailangan din slowly. Kasi minsan, gusto-gusto natin nakikita nag-melt ang soldering lead, we forget that our main goal here is to solder properly. So, kailangan mainit ang tip, mainit din ang joint para maganda ang ating pag-melt ng soldering lead. Let's go to number 5. After we solder, we inspect the joint closely. Ito yung joint. Okay? You will know if it's a good solder if it looks shiny, smooth surface, and have a volcano shape. So, ibig sabihin patulis yung sa taas. Tapos, wala yung parang, kumbaga may crater. Walang may impok-impok na maliliit. Kailangang smooth ang ating pag-welt ng soldering lead. Another tip before we solder is you get a rubber eraser and then you clean the top of the PCB. Ano ba yung PCB? O yung printed circuit board. Ito yung kulay green. Nakikita nyo, ito mga pathway. This is where electricity will flow. Before we solder, what we do when I was in college, now it could also be useful. You get a rubber eraser, kahit yung sa Mongol, kahit any pencil, basta rubber eraser, and then you try to rub the eraser on top of this hole or mga joints para malinis at smooth ang ating pag-melt ng soldering lead. Okay, so balik tayo. So we have the 5 steps on how to solder our joints or components using a soldering lead. Now, what we're going to do next is we are going to talk about on how to identify a good and bad solder. Sige. We have the good and bad soldering. Pag good siya, ibig sabihin, electricity will flow properly sa ating circuit board. Balik tayo dun sa previous, ha? Yan, balik tayo dito. Pag pangit ang ating pag-solder, ang electricity ay hindi mag-flow properly. So what's the first solder that would depict that it's a bad solder? So we have number 1, overheated joint. Pag sabing overheated, sobrang init. Okay. So what's an overheated joint? It can be a result of too hot soldering iron, masyadong mainit. You have plugged the soldering iron, iniwan mo, bumalik ka, mainit na siya, and you think that it's alright. Mainit eh. It's needed to melt the soldering lead, which is wrong. Too much is never good. Okay? So, overheated joint can be a result of too hot soldering iron, high temperature setting, another term, or soldering lead failing to flow to the track or terminal wires. Ibig sabihin, tingnan natin ang picture, ganyan. Pag masyadong mainit ang soldering iron natin, nasusunog po ang ating PCB or circuit board. Tapos, pag sa tingin natin, hindi dumidikit ang soldering lead, ang tendency, inuulit-ulit natin nilalagay si soldering iron doon sa joint. This is the joint kung saan eto kasi, itong parang patulis dito, ito yung legs ng component natin. Okay? So, pinaulit-ulit natin siya nilagay. Overheat na, binalikan mo pa ng solder, madumi na siya. Just imagine, nagluto ka sa frying pan. Masyadong mainit na ang mantika. Nilagay mo diretso yung isda, nilagay mo diretso yung hotdog, sunog. So, example din yan ng overheated joint. So, that's number 1. Let's go to number 2. Meron din tayong tinatawag na cold joint. So, malamig. Kanina overheat, masyadong mainit. Ngayon naman, cold joint. So, ano ito? So nakita niyo dito, ganito yung cold joint, no? Parang alanganin na soldering, parang okay din. Pero alanganin talaga siya, hindi siya good soldering. Right? So a cold joint is one where the solder did not melt completely. Sa previous overheat, masyado namang mainit. Ito naman, hindi masyado napainit ng maayos si soldering iron, tapos, nagmamadali siguro si student, nagmamadali si technician, o sige na, pwede na yan. So, sa electronics, hindi pwede na yan. Baka papasa, hindi tayo pwede alanganin. Kailangan maganda ang ating pag-solder. Okay? So, a cold joint would result to a cold solder and non-contact. Ibig sabihin, kasi ang soldering lead, siya ang tumutulong para electricity will flow in the circuit. Pag pangit ang pag-solder natin, ibig sabihin ang electricity ay hindi makaka-flow o makakadaloy ng maayos sa ating circuit board. Overheat, pangit. Cold joint, hindi din siya tama. Let's go to the next one. Ito naman, insufficient wetting. Ibig sabihin, hindi pumasok o hindi na-cover ng maayos ang ating hole. So, pag nag-solder tayo o pag nag-melt tayo ng soldering lead, kailangan ito ditong buo ay nako-cover. Hindi naman lalampas, hindi naman sobra. So, soldering takes practice and takes time. But if you really want to become a technician, kailangan the soldering iron, the soldering lead, the multi-tester will be your best friend. Sige. So, insufficient wetting happens when soldering lead does not fully cover the entire pad where the joint is made. So, anong result nitong insufficient wetting? Ang components natin, yung mga resistor, yung mga transistor, yung mga capacitor, hindi siya mismong nakadikit ng maayos sa ating circuit board. Isipin na lang natin na parang nagkaroon tayo ng project at nag-glue ka. Hindi mo inayos ng glue, parang natatanggal ang iyong mga pictures o kung ano mang didikit mo doon sa papel. So, habang naglalakad ka, pwedeng matanggal yung papel. So, ganito din sa electronics. Ang nangyari dito, it could result to non-contact or pwedeng short circuit. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, hindi talaga makadaloy ng maayos ang ating electricity. At madali din pwedeng magka-short circuit din ang ating mga components pag ganito ang nangyari. Alright. Next, ito naman. Merong insufficient wetting, ibig sabihin kakulangan. Kulang ang pag-solder, kulang ang soldering lead. Meron namang excessive, sobra. So, sa buhay naman, pag kulang, hindi din maganda. Diba? Pag kulang sa pagmamahal. Yun, diba? Pag sobra naman, hindi din siya maganda. So, ganun din sa electronics. Excessive soldering lead. So, ganito, di ba? Akala mo, pag masyadong madami, okay na. Pero hindi pala. So, it's a common beginner's assumption is the more solder, the better. Which is wrong. We don't need too much soldering. We don't need too much soldering lead. Kailangan pag mag-solder tayo, babalik ako sa kabila ha. Kailangan kung mag-solder tayo, volcano type, tapos itong legs, o yung component, may wire pa sa component na uusli o nakikita pa para pwede nating i-cut at in case that we want to test the circuit or test the component, pwede pa natin siyang matest. Pero kung ganito naman na parang naka-mountain na siya, sumobra na, hindi na din maganda. Hindi natin matitest ang component o yung pyesa kung sa Tagalog pa. Hindi natin siya matitest. So, kailangan tanggalin ito. Okay? So, it's a common beginner's assumption that the more the solder, the better, which is wrong. Hindi talaga pwede. So, meron na tayong 4 na bad solder. Ang pinaka-good solder talaga is yung nag-cone type ang ating soldering lead. O yun. Okay na. So, madali lang, no, ang ating ginawa. So, ngayong araw na ito, ang ginawa natin, nag-usap tayo kung paano mag-soldering. We have the 5 steps. Tapos, dito naman, good and bad solder, we have 4 types of bad solder. Okay, good and bad solder. But it's basically all are the bad solder. Okay, so ang soldering lead helps electricity to flow in the circuit board. Pag pangit ang ating pag-solder, hindi siya maganda, it will cause short circuit, it will cause insufficient electricity in the circuit board. Okay, so let's start and let's check what you remember. Okay, so identify the correct order by placing a number before each statement. So titingnan ko yung mga sagot dito. Okay, how to solder in PCB. Ang gagawin nyo lang is you're just going to comment there the numbers from 1 to 5. Okay, yung proper arrangement. Touch the iron tip on the pad. Ito ba yung number 1? So lagay mo number 1 dito. So, I'll just get my pen. Okay? Sample, ha? Kung sa tingin mo ito yung number 1, susulat mo yung 1. Okay. Inspect the joint closely to see if it turns out as a good solder. Ito ba yung number 2? So, sulat mo number 2 kung ito yung 2 para sa'yo. Hold the soldering iron like a pen. Parang familiar. Ito ba? Okay. Put a small amount of soldering, o pwedeng ganon, 3. Put a small amount of soldering lead on the heated joint. Or heat the soldering iron as you prepare. So, pwede ito yung 4. This is not the answer, right? Sasagutan lang natin. Okay, ito ba yung tama? Ito ba yung ating tamang pagkasunod-sunod? Pag hindi naman, o pwede naman nating burahin. Okay, o erase natin. Sige, mali. Okay? Tingnan natin ang tamang sagot. Tingnan natin dito. Sige, marami tayong pangloto ng mga combination. So, ang tamang sagot ay, yan po. So, number 1, kuha tayo ng laser pointer. Hold the soldering iron like a pen. Yan ang number 1. Susunod naman, heat the soldering iron as you prepare other materials on your work table. Correct. Diba? Number 3, touch the iron tip on the pad. Number 4, put a small amount of soldering lead on the heated joint. Then 5, inspect the joint closely to see if it turns out as a good solder. So, ito ang how to solder a PCB. Madali lang. Ang theory. Sana magtakita tayo ulit at magkita-kita face-to-face, that's what I mean, para I can teach you how to solder. So, tingnan natin sa next nating session kung posible bang mag-solder si ma'am live. So, tingnan natin ha. So, hahanapan ko ng paraan yon. So, as of the moment, ito muna ang ating tips at ating theory kung paano gumawa at maggumawa ng good solder. Maraming salamat po, acting mga grade 9 students. I hope you have answered the guide questions that I have given you. Sulat po natin yon sa yellow paper. Susunod po si Tutor Marco para sa ICT CSS tutorial. For TLE 9 naman, kita-kita tayo ulit next Friday. Maraming salamat po and I hope that you enjoyed.
Good day! Are we digitally ready? This is the question that teachers and learners are probably asking right now. With the advent of DepEd's Digital Rights Program, the Open Educational Resources, or OER, was woven together and finally realized. This project prioritizes the necessity to enhance the digital literacy skills of every teacher and learner in the country. Our OER mission is to connect the disconnected. OER is indeed an innovative initiative with a lofty aim to get disconnected schools and last-mile schools connected through ICT even without an internet connection.
It is designed to cater to the need of these schools for interactivity, digitalization, and delivery of 21st century skills that will ensure that every learner is future ready. Join us in another training workshop and learn more about open educational resources, whose primary purpose is to provide support and assistance to learners and teachers in this rapid advancement of technology. Our goal is to build and strengthen the capabilities of public and private teachers, school heads, and supervisors by teaching you to create and design interactive, localized, and contextualized instructional materials for teaching using basic, advanced, and proficiency software and tools. Surely, this will be another exciting and engaging webinar training workshop. Together, let's all rise amidst this crisis. Para sa bata, para sa bayan, para sa guro. Sulong, ito kalidad!